Introducing Recorded Content, a podcast for small, scrappy B2B marketing teams who want to get the most out of podcasting. In each episode, we capture stories from industry experts and podcasters. Listen in and uncover what it takes to launch, run, and grow a successful B2B podcast. Check out and subscribe to the show on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. Let's jump in.
Hey, I'm Tristan. I'm the co-founder of Motion and your host for this episode of Recorded Content. The show is brought to you by Motion, a done-for-you podcast agency for small, scrappy B2B tech marketers. In today's world, podcasts go beyond just audio. When you produce a show for your company, you also create visual and written content. But the traditional audio editing workflow is completely broken. At least it was, until Descript came along. At Motion, Descript has moved to the center of our entire workflow. With each episode we produce for recorded content or any of our customer shows, we initiate the whole process in Descript. And in this episode, I'm excited to kick off a series with Descript. Each quarter, we plan to bring on members of Descript's team to talk through the latest updates to their product. These conversations will be a way for you to understand how the product is changing and also how you can keep evolving your own workflow. And most importantly, you can get the inside scoop on why Descript is making certain changes to their product and how other customers are adapting along the way. In this episode, I have Harmony Jiroudek and Kevin O'Connell. Harmony is the customer success manager at Descript, and Kevin is a product specialist at Descript. And during this conversation, we cover some key updates to the product and uncover why this particular release focused mostly on social video features. All right, so Harmony, Kevin, first of all, thanks for joining me on Recorded Content.
Thanks for having us, Tristan.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. So before we get into Descript's latest updates with season 2, I wanted to get a sense of what you all do each and every day as you're working with customers. So Harmony, let's start with you. What's your primary role at Descript?
Yeah, so I'm one of the customer success managers and product specialists here. So I'm really lucky in that I get to meet with prospective clients as well as work with our existing clients and help educate them on the platform.
And you've worked with me already, so I've seen it firsthand. So Kevin, also I've worked with you too as you've introduced some key features and you've helped our team along the way. But what's your primary role as a product specialist?
Certainly. I meet mainly with teams, a lot of our enterprise clients, so folks that are part of a company or organization working with a bunch of collaborators, and I help get them onboarded, trained, and educated in how to use Descript collaboratively and effectively in their work.
So Descript officially launched season 2, which is an update which includes a lot of features. But even before we get into what's included in that latest release, I thought we would just set the stage with outlining what the concept of a season is, since that's a little bit different than what we normally see from tech companies. So what is a season at Descript?
So seasons, they generally tend to focus around larger themes and features. So this last season 2 was focused around social video features. So transforming audio into engaging video content. We also incorporated some faster, as we call blazing, fast publishing speeds. So you can publish your composition or screen recording to now render really fast. So probably at least 3 times faster than what you had previously been seeing. So in short, yeah, these seasons are really meant to be themed around, these larger sort of concepts in terms of taking existing content and bringing it to the next level.
Yeah, and I think the historical context of us being a newer startup, pretty nimble company releasing new updates and features all the time, we decided to package those things up in a little bit more of a thematic release rather than putting out brand new big features every couple weeks, kind of creating some excitement and continuity behind what we're releasing and why we're releasing it.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Kevin, because I attended the YouTube live that you all had around season 2. And I remember season 1, there was something similar that you all did too. So what, since this is the second thematic release that you did, what was, if we roll back the clock a little bit, what was entailed with season 1,
Yeah.
which was, I think, in October, I believe.
Season 1, that was a really exciting one because that was when we rolled out essentially our first suite of audio effects in addition to studio sound, which, started out in beta. And I think that's really true to how we generally release these larger features. It's very progressive in terms of starting in beta, going into early release, figuring out, what are the quirks, how can we improve it, and then getting it into production. So season one was great in that we were able to test out some of those newer audio effects, improving upon studio sound, as well as improving the overdub model.
Yeah, which is a great feature, by the way.
We love
Love
it.
overdub. There's a
We
lot of
love it.
different applications there. That's even something that I haven't been able to dive in too much. We use it a lot for just scratch narration
Mm.
for the most part. So we'll develop a script and export that so that customers get a sense of, for instance, how an intro to a podcast will kind of sound. We're able to get that vibe without working with a voiceover artist just to get that scratch track. So that's very helpful there. And we're also using overdub to fill in blanks in certain cases too, where you forget a word or you just want to adjust a sentence or something like that. So
Mhm.
that's always handy. And I feel like I'm always thinking about other ways to use it. And I'm sure it'll
Yeah.
just continue to grow the use cases there. So you mentioned Harmony earlier that the big overarching theme for season two was this concept around social video. So I was thinking, since you're working with customers really on a daily basis, like what were some of the drivers there to really make sure that that was addressed in this latest season?
Yeah. So we have existing audiogram templates, which are great. They're super fast and easy to use. But I think one of the challenges there is that they're not incredibly customizable. You essentially have, 3, 4 templates that you can work from. And I think one of the challenges is that, you want to have those clips identify with your brand. And so we added custom fonts. That was a big one. So be able to adapt some of those earlier audiograms that you were doing, add in some element of video, whether it's adding in a waveform, this progress bar, even adding video behind the audiogram, just to take it to that next level, make it more engaging. And I think that the motivating piece was really be able to further customize this content. So hopefully now with some of these newer features, people are able to do that and bring it to the next level.
Yeah, and did you find that a lot of customers were asking some of these questions? Because I know even like 3 or 4 weeks before season 2, I just sent out a question. It was like, "How do I get more than these 5 or 6 fonts that are available for captions?"
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, we don't have custom fonts yet." So I figured maybe something would happen with that, which it did come out in season 2. But yeah, like what are some of the like questions that you get? Like how do those land on the product roadmap? Like how does that process work?
In the app, down in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little question mark, and that leads to our feature request board. So I'd say that the company is very transparent in terms of our roadmap and, where we are with feature requests. And those requests greatly inform our roadmap, right? So you can go and see, when was custom fonts planned for, or, is it in the next rotation? And one of the things that's coming up, well, maybe we'll talk a little bit later on, is multi-language transcription. So that's been a number one request for a long time, and the same goes for custom fonts. That was in the request bin for I don't even know how long, probably before I started. So definitely check out the feature request board to stay informed on what people are asking for. Upvote. Kevin, what else would you add?
No, that's it. I mean, it's highly motivated and informed by how people want to use Descript and the community that kind of revolves around all of these different feature requests and expansive ideas on how people might want to use the app. And yeah, feedback.descript.com, you can see the roadmap also, which includes things that are under review, so being considered, and then also the things that are planned and in progress. So you can really like be up to date, understand what's coming out in the next release, and have an idea, start to generate some more ideas on how you might want to use Descript.
Yeah, and Kevin, when you're working with folks like on the onboarding side or where you're providing some clarifications on workflow, do you take some of those requests as well? Like, do you have input into that too? How does that work?
Always, we're always submitting feature requests on behalf of customers and teams, um, both from both from a feature request standpoint of wanting to see something new or different in the app, but also being able to share their experience from start to finish in producing content. and try to make that process smooth and concise for their own team and their own workflow.
Great. So good background there. And I did want to ask about the Discord community. Like how does that feed into it as well? Because I haven't been involved in that up to this point, but how does that add a layer to some of the, customer feedback and just the overall communication there?
I personally love searching through the Discord and seeing the interaction that's happening and how folks in the Descript community are supporting one another, whether it's looking for an editor or a consultant to help work on a piece, or someone's just having a sticky point in their workflow and asking an open-ended question to the folks on Discord and how they're doing a certain thing and getting all these different perspectives and ideas on how they can accomplish what they're doing. And it creates a great dialogue for folks that are all trying to do the same thing, right? Trying to make something cool that they care about. And it's awesome to see people show each other how they're doing it.
Yeah. Just to add to that too, from a product education standpoint, I love seeing the way that people help each other grow and learn about the product together. Oftentimes you see, oh my gosh, did you just see that this feature was here? Did you check out the transcription wizard? I didn't even know about this. So it's really nice to see how people are supporting each other and educating themselves collaboratively. It's really cool to see.
Very cool. Yeah, it reminds me of a tweet that I just saw a couple days ago. Someone said, "Hey, Descript, you need some new audiogram templates." And I responded. I was like, "You can actually do whatever you want at this point in time." And he just had no idea about season 2, was just familiar with the normal workflow that he had where as you export, you pick one of those templates and you're off and running, but it's almost like, okay, you know, you actually have unlimited possibilities now to
Mm.
to create those audiograms and those clips. So it was a good exchange there on Twitter, and I imagine like with the community aspect, it's even at a greater level of detail and overall interaction. So well, good. I got to check that out. So that'll be one of my action items after this. So let's shift to the three big features that I did want to go through from season 2, since we have you all here. The three big ones I have are around publishing. You all alluded to earlier the blazing fast rendering and writing of the files themselves. The second is to get an understanding of the ownership and the project structure and some of those different roles and some modifications that were made there. And then lastly, we'll go through some of those specific social video features that were released and how those can help folks further distribute the content that they're producing. So let's start with the publishing piece. And Descript allows you to really export in a variety of formats, whether that is a screen recording or a video or audio episode. But Kevin, let's use some of your expertise here on what changes were made and kind of why that was a priority for season 2.
A little backstory on what a publishing page is. Published pages are the ability to take a composition, publish it to the web in a private, unlisted, or public URL, and has a similar UI to Descript where you can play back, read along in the transcript with a great little playback marker, search the transcripts, drop in comments, and kind of really expand the way you collaborate with outside stakeholders. And for publishing, we were experiencing some longer wait times for folks that wanted to publish a composition quickly, get it out, share the link. So taking about a 20-minute-ish piece right now after Blazing Fast Publishing was released, you take about a 20-minute composition, heavily edited with lots of elements, and that's going to be published in about a minute, which in other cases was taking a few minutes. So it's 10 times faster than before, if we're going to quantify it.
Yeah.
And I think that allows folks to get feedback really quickly and then go back to the drawing board or dive back into their edit process rather than wait on the technology to allow them to share out their material.
And Kevin, are you finding folks are using that, like that public and private pages to view the content of like a project they're working on, like a creative project, or are folks also using that to communicate like asynchronously? Here's a screen recording of something I'm trying to get done. Take a look at this versus me writing a long email. Like, what are some of those
Mm.
use cases of those pages?
I mean, my crusade of 2022 is to stop writing emails and
Yeah,
only do screen recordings.
I'm with you.
Yeah. So our built-in screen recorder, as soon as you stop the recording, it's going to automatically publish. So you get a published page of your recording, transcribes, that you can share out immediately. So that's one case, which is obviously highly useful, gets us off the keyboard and allows us to talk about the product that we're working with. But a lot of folks are using it to work asynchronously, share out concepts, ideas, especially share small sections of a larger piece. If you finish the, part one of a 3-part series and you want to get that part one out and get some feedback, you clip it to another composition, publish it and share it out, and then you can continue working on part two. So it allows you to get feedback and collaborate in real time or asynchronously without having to wait for the feedback.
And are you finding, and maybe Harmony, you'll be able to speak to this too, is are folks using that internal within their team to use that structure, or are they also working with clients externally? So, to give folks a taste of how the progress is coming along.
Absolutely. I'd say it's certainly both. We see teams that are using it for the purpose of, even us at Descript, we'll use it to, go through sort of a walkthrough of some of these newer features. And I might shoot that over to Kevin and be like, hey, do you think this was clear and concise so that I can send it over to this new client? Then, we also have folks that are using it for that review and approvals process with clients that they're working with. So they'll get their video podcast kind of ready to go based on all of the edits and suggestions that have been made, send it out via that share page. If there's a few more little tweaks that need to be made, they can just add in the comments via their browser without having to go into the app. And then the nice thing is that those comments soon are going to be carried back into Descript into that project. So I think definitely seeing some efficiency gains both with internal use cases and also working with external clients.
Interesting. Yeah, that's something we haven't explored much with on our side is the comment piece with other folks that are able to see versions of the project. We
Yeah.
we typically have people kind of get their hands in there and they're actually making changes to the transcript or taking those clips and then exporting them into Premiere and After Effects. We're not doing like comments or, to kind of help make some of the more creative decisions. We haven't done
It's
that yet, but it sounds like so in that browser, when you do publish that composition and it's out there, you're saying that if you do have some folks that are making comments, those then ultimately will roll back into the app itself?
the soon.
Yeah, soon. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's interesting. I'll make a note of that to even explore further.
Tristan,
Yeah.
I'll also add for pro teams like yourselves, the ability to get an edit and assembly round of comments and revisions is so huge before going to Premiere and After Effects, where you can make decisions on where and why things are happening while using the text-based editing tools of Descript and not be reviewing a movie file in post after you've done a bunch of work and production on it and that might get rolled back in some
Yeah.
way. So getting
Yeah.
early stakeholders involved is really huge with publishing pages.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I remember, Kevin, when we met and walked through our video workflow, which we made a big we were like at a crossroads as to when are we going to make that decision to go into Premiere and After Effects. And I remember I sat down with you to kind of go through that. And that is something that is important because once you make that decision to export, now you're kind of on two tracks. And if you have any edits from the customer, you have to make those in two different places. So that's important. That's probably something that we'll need to think about as well as when to involve folks so that
Mm,
they get some visibility into some of those major decisions before we we,
mm,
we go down that path and have to do that. And we're even wrestling with the fact because a lot of the updates on the social video side, I know they were, and we'll get to that in a second, they were meant to really help with sharing clips and so forth. But I think they're even more advantageous to the long form pieces that we're producing that we used to pull into Premiere. Now I think we can do almost a majority of that in Descript, and then that will really just shift our highly produced stuff just for the short clips, which is a big change because we're talking about a lot less content that we have to really manage at that point. Because if we just are making adjustments to a 2 minute like sizzle reel or a trailer for an episode, that's a lot easier to manage than trying to deal with this 1 hour episode and two different tracks. So some thoughts there. Well, good. All right. So we went through publishing and got some sense of what the blazing fast speeds look like there. So let's shift to yeah, the workspaces and projects and kind of just the hierarchy that's involved within Descript from a team member perspective. So, Harmony, can you walk us through like some of the big concepts that exist within the application?
Yeah, certainly. And I think this is often even where teams can get a little stumped with some of the terminology and nomenclature for sure. So I think to kind of set the stage, 30,000-foot view, if you are the account owner of of your Descript account, when you log in, you're taken to this Drive view. So kind of envision Google Drive, if that helps with an analogy. So this is your bird's eye view of everything that's going on in your Descript account. So for me, as the Drive owner, I can manage any all projects, create folders, really set a structure in place for our workspace before inviting team members in. So that's definitely a best practice that Kevin and I try to impart is before you even get team members onto your drive, set up a folder structure that's going to be most conducive to your workflow, even if it's just setting up 2 or 3 folders, some nested ones, set some good naming conventions in advance. So within that drive view, you essentially have all of your content section, which is where your projects and your folders exist. And then you've got the left sidebar. In that left sidebar, you have 2 workspaces. So we have this thing called workspaces. What are they? We have what's called the drive workspace, which is where, let's say if the 3 of us were on a team drive, this is where we can collaborate as a team. I can create projects, you can see them, you can edit them if you have editor access. It's where we can coexist as a team and collaborate together on projects. There's a second workspace called My Workspace, and that's private to me. So if I have stuff that I'm working on, it's a work in progress. I'm not quite ready to share it with the team. I might want to keep it in my private workspace, and then later on, I can move it over into the team workspace. It's really easy to move projects around if you need, but just wanted to distinguish those 2 different workspaces. From there, you have what we call projects. Projects are super flexible in that you can upload audio and video into them. You can have what we call multiple compositions. So think of these as like versions of your source material that you're pulling into Descript. And so that's kind of the general hierarchy is you've got your drive view. Within the drive, you've got workspaces, drive workspace, my workspace. Within there, you can have folders and projects. Within projects, you have compositions. So hopefully that helps kind of provide that bird's eye view of how everything can get set up in Descript.
Yeah, and I'll provide some context of how we have it set up on our side. So, I mean, I think the comparison to Google Drive's um, probably the best way to approach it because you do have your own personal drive, and then you kind of have like the G Suite approach where people are able to have editing or view access only, and that's how we've explained it internally to our team, and because we use Google Drive to store all the final assets and stuff for customers, so we really keep a very similar structure between Descript and Google Drive, and it's very easy for new team members to come in and understand like the hierarchy of how everything's set up. And for us, we have a folder with an account or a customer, and we have a folder for a show. So some of our customers have multiple shows, so that will each be a folder. And then we have projects that are basically tied to an episode. And so one project equals an episode, and that's how we roll with it. And like I said, it's been very easy to just communicate this with our team. And the other nice thing that we've rolled out probably within the last 6 months is we have a folder within the customer hierarchy that includes our discovery process, our kickoff process. And we actually put in the recordings from those calls because those are automatically transcribed, of course. And we're able to share those with team members. So our designer does not have to sit in to an hour-long kickoff to go through the whole process, and we use cues when we go through our discovery, and he can search based on, like, where in the meeting we talk through some of those most important things, and our creative director can pinpoint exactly that discussion that's highly relevant to him, so we save so much time there. He can also listen to it at a higher speed, 1.3x, where if you're live and in the kickoff, everyone's at one speed,
Yep.
and you have to sit there the whole time. So that's how we've broken that out too, and that was a nice addition for our team on the collaboration side. But that said, so Harmony, talk to the adjustment or the change that was made in ownership or owning a project and how that transfer might work and some of the use cases there.
Definitely. I think the most prominent use case would be, thinking about the offboarding process in Descript. So we have two membership types in Descript, just to kind of set the stage here. So we have editors, which have full reign in Descript. They can transcribe, edit, export, the whole buffet of Descript. And then you have what we call basic members, and those are free members. And the nice thing about basic members is they can still view projects, they can comment on them, they just can't necessarily edit them. So great for like review and approvals or need to send something up the food chain. So they don't necessarily need to get into the nitty gritty, but just need to have transparency into what's being created. Having said that, if, let's say I'm offboarding from a company, I had an editor seat on my team drive, I managed 20, 30 some projects. Now I need to transfer the project ownership. Before there wasn't a way to do that. So now I can go in to those projects, I can transfer ownership to Kevin so that he can now run with these projects, bring them to the finish line. So now there's this more sort of efficient way of offboarding from project to project if needed.
Got it. And it sounds like it's very similar. Like if someone leaves your G Suite workspace, you transfer all their files to another owner at some point. So it's a very similar concept again to that.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So with that project ownership piece, we could probably switch to, the big theme of season two, which is that social video piece and a lot of the adjustments that were made there. But let's get an understanding, like some of the major components that were included in the release. We could probably start with some of the features that allow you to create these custom audiograms and really custom branding elements. It sounds like there was a big shift to that, but what would you categorize those major adjustments being?
Yeah, one I would say is we pooled all of these features into one bucket where we're calling it social video. And the ability to transform audio to video was a little ambiguous prior. Maybe you'd have to bring in some B-roll video and have the audio underline. Now it's as simple as saying, I have my podcast. Here's a section that I want to create an audiogram out of or a social clip out of. Clip that to a new composition and add one of the many features that are now included in this suite of social video assets. So the ability to add waveforms and progress bars. We have dynamic captions that you can organize and display in a bunch of different components, custom fonts, of course, and really the ability to just reimagine what an audiogram is and how it looks. So not only do progress bars show up like how they typically do on a lot of social platforms, left to right as you progress through the video, but there's also circular progress bars, a counter that can count up or down, just a lot of different ways to reimagine what are the themes of my audiogram? How can I really lay into our brand, our content, and make it feel like our show and not like we're just another show putting into a template?
Yeah, and I think what a lot of folks don't realize too is just Descript is probably very well known for like the style of editing that's available using the transcript as the basis. But there's also a timeline concept as well that people like me who have more background with Premiere, et cetera, we're familiar with layers, right, on a
Mhm.
timeline. So there's that concept that exists too. So it's kind of like putting those two editing styles together to really provide an unlimited number of possibilities, and that's with the audiogram and even just exporting video and adding layers to it. You really have complete freedom to add images on top of each other with transparent layers, and that's what we've been exploring with is even with the video snippets we create, you can create PNGs that have transparent layers underneath them to mask certain parts of a video. You really have complete freedom there. You can stack images on top of each other. So there's a lot of possibilities there. And the one thing with the text that I wanted to bring up and go through that, there are a lot of possibilities with the dynamic text. It's
Mhm.
it's not just the transcript piece. there's some other pieces there too, where there's like filtering on the speakers and some other things there. So Kevin, can you kind of walk through what exactly that dynamic text component is?
Certainly. Yeah. So the ability to organize your transcript and captions, which we call fancy captions, organize your captions by speaker label. Huge. You can split screen and have the transcript and script pop up in caption form when only one speaker is speaking and vice versa. We also have these word level animations that I think are my favorite aspect of captions these days. And you can have an active word color, you have a future word color, and the ability to completely customize how those look and feel. It allows you to bring in your branded fonts and your colors and apply those to how the script is looking as it shows up as a caption on the video.
Yeah, I love it. And that's what we started to do with, and I even think we're introducing like a new product where we have like these trailers that we produce that are outside of Descript, and that's where we do a lot of the heavier animations, and those are more like a sizzle reel that are very dynamic. And then we're going to introduce the clips that are also highly customized now. Like they're not just the standard, here's a video with a headline at the top. We can really get creative with it from a design standpoint and add all these like little elements of detail that I think will help separate what other folks see online. I mean, like the countdown or the timer is a nice little adjustment. We used it on a clip that we had. It's really tiny font. It's just a little element that's moving the entire time. We have the progress bar. It's just like levels of detail like that are interesting to explore with. And I think that's what our team has fun with. It's like, okay, from a design standpoint, we have kind of like this whole world available to us, and then here's what Descript can do. How can we utilize some of these new things to make content different? So it's been fun for us just playing around with it the last few weeks and rolling out some of those for customers as well. And I'm interested, that's some of my feedback, but Harmon, maybe what are you hearing from folks on the customer side with some of these new features? What's some of the early feedback that you're hearing?
Yeah, I think, one of the features that I think has always been appreciated is the fancy caption feature. And I think now with the word level animation option, it brings this sort of new level of accessibility to end users, right? So allows you to bring higher contrast to specific words, that are popping up on screen. So I think that one is huge. And then, especially from for folks that are producing podcasts, just be able to have that next level of customization with either creating audio or videograms and be able to really truly repurpose your content in a meaningful and an engaging way. I would say those are the two things that are really resonating with folks.
And something else that comes to mind too is the change in aspect ratio. I don't Was that there before this season 2 adjustment, or when did that come into play?
We're kind of sneaky how in terms
Yeah,
of
because
how
it
things pop up in that app. Well, I
yeah.
don't want to say sneaky. Things roll out, as Kevin mentioned with seasons, like even some of the season 2 features, some of those were in the app a little bit earlier on, but it was just kind of a matter of rolling them out and be able to get some early feedback. Um, I think that's generally has been our approach to slowly slow and grow with some
Yeah,
of these
little
other
Easter
features.
eggs,
Yeah.
kind of. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I
Exactly.
saw that one day 'cause I was even gonna jump on the line with you and just ask because it was weird how I was in order to really have the sequence reflect the size that I want, it's like it was the first asset or whatever, and it would adopt that size. And I was like, "How do we well, if I wanna go from, landscape or whatever, HD to the square format, like, what's the best way to do that?" And then one day I just saw the little thing up there that, the little toggle button that you can basically have whatever aspect ratio you want, and that's really helped us a lot because just an example there, we would have to export a composition, and then for TikTok, we're doing a lot of videos there. We're doing Instagram Reels, all kinds of different stuff for Twitter, LinkedIn, pretty much everywhere, and they're always changing their sizes, and a lot of times we have to export to Premiere and handle that, where this kind of, makes us rethink that workflow a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, one thing that Kevin and I usually try to provide well, we try to provide some pro tips in showing folks how to utilize some of those features. And so uh clip to composition is your friend when it comes, to repurposing some of that longer form content or even using the highlighting feature too. So excited to see what folks do with that.
So that's a good review of season 2. What are some things, I mean, you mentioned putting Easter eggs into the application, but what are some of the things that are on that roadmap, that you mentioned, Kevin, earlier that folks can maybe look towards in the next season here?
This most recent release a couple days ago, we're focusing more on some smaller fixes that are going to just improve quality of life. So you may or may not notice them, but they will help out your experience. Or you can see those on the changelog, changelog.descript.com. But things that are planned and coming up and being worked on by our team right now, one of those things is multi-language support, which is going to really empower any user to be able to use Descript. Obviously, Descript up until now has been English only. So having multi-language transcription and editing and expanding what that looks like in the future as we add more languages is just going to open up the door to more producers, more creators that are working on individual projects or teams. Especially, I'm most excited about the concept of working on a multi-language team and producing content that is repurposed in multi-languages or has, like Spanglish throughout a podcast. I work with my friend on a podcast that is part Spanish and part English, and it's really exciting. There's also a lot of, going back to our social video components, there's a bunch of aspects of our video editing that are going to improve quality of life. One being cropping videos, rotating clips, and a bunch of other little features that are going to improve that workflow a lot.
Perfect. Yeah, and Kevin, that's a good segue. Like, what are some of the uses that you all have? It sounds like, Kevin, you're working on. Is it a personal podcast, or tell me about that?
Yeah, working on some shows with different creators, mostly around Boston, where I live, but helping support people that are making podcasts and making a lot of passion projects with them, which is really fun.
All right, awesome. Harmony, how about you? You're working with customers each day. How about yourself?
To Kevin's point earlier, my goal in 2022 is to write fewer emails. And so one thing that I love is like I can just pull up the screen recorder. And so if I'm trying to answer a series of questions from a prospective client, I can just take that list. I can go into the app and be like, okay, we're going to go point to point, based on this question. Here's what I think the best approach might be. And they can also visualize it at the same time rather than just, words on a screen. So yeah, being able to use the screen recorder has been huge just in terms of enabling our business development team. And then for, personal use, make, silly little cooking videos here and there, but I'm really excited to see what other teams are creating with some of these newer features.
Love it. That's a good place to stop there. And Harmony, where can people go to find out more about you?
Please find and connect with me on LinkedIn. I think Kevin is also on LinkedIn as well. Please join our Discord community. We're always watching out for uh, questions, comments, feedback. Find us on Discord. Reach out to us via feedback.descript.com. Also, we have an amazing support team. So down in the bottom right-hand corner of Descript, there's that little question mark. You can chat with us live, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific. And our support team is amazing, and they're there to help everyone.
Yep, I can speak firsthand how good they are. Appreciate it so much. And Kevin, how about yourself? Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can also check out my website, which is kevinoconnellmusic.com, from stuff I've worked on, both from a music perspective and audio producing engineering for podcasts.
All right, great. And for selfish reasons, this is great for me and our team, and then we're going to chop this up and use this in a lot of different ways for our customers and folks that are in our audience. So this will be a big help there, and I always appreciate your help from both of you. You're always like a step ahead. Descript is, and you're always making us rethink about our own workflow, and it's like we're evolving together. So appreciate you jumping on, and looking forward to the next time you come on for maybe, I guess it'll be season 3. Is that the next big update, I would say? All
Coming
right.
soon.
Well, thank you both again for joining me on Recorded Content.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tristan.